Okay. I don't even know. I've asked God many, many times. I'm like, why am I making these videos? What even is this? I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then something in me propels me to make another video. And I'm like just watching myself. I'm having an experience of watching myself like do something. I'm just like, what is this for? I feel like I want to express this thought, I guess, because that's who I am. I express thoughts. More of an artist or something. I see myself as like an artist, more into expression than like trying to define something, or teach someone how to help themselves or whatever the world seems to be so into. But this thought that comes to me, and it's a Smith song. It's the boy with a thorn in his side. That's the name of a Smith song. It's also in reference to when Paul was talking about this thorn in his flesh, and why God has given him this thorn in his flesh. It seems to be this harassment and torment by the devil or something. And he pleads with God to deliver him from this place, and he doesn't. And God says, "My grace is sufficient in your weakness." And this seems to be a place that I've always lived in. So I've had this thorn in my flesh that has become more and more apparent as time has gone on, right? Where it's like now I look back and I'm like, I've always had this thorn in my flesh, but I'm no longer able to distract myself or hide from this affliction anymore, right? It was almost like it was just in the background and I was under the influence of this. But now I'm more so just experiencing the pain of it in this place where the physical appearance of where I'm living is in direct reflection of what I've been trying to run away from my whole life, basically. This this homelessness, this feeling of deep homelessness in the world, where there is no home for me, there is no safe place for me, where it's like if I'm showing up anywhere, I'm either too early or too late. And I've been shown this in my life over and over and over. And it has brought a very indescribable amount of suffering to me. And I would call this the thorn in my flesh. And I see this world that we're in now. And maybe I feel like because there's a shift that's happening or something. It's like the world that is getting ready to autocorrect or something. Basically like the things that men have built and we've tried to find hiding places in our own like structures, hiding places within the work of our hands. Like that seems to be crumbling down, right? That being a place that I was never able to really hide in the work of my hands, right? Distracted by what I can do and bring to myself. That seems to be the world that is crumbling. I feel that. I feel that shift or something. And that to me is the only thing that actually makes sense. And in this way, I'm not like I've been prepared for another reality or something. Like, do you feel that? Do you understand what I'm talking about? Where like your homelessness in the world that you have known it to be, like it's just very apparent that you don't belong here. And this is not your place. You're not your space and time. Like no place has felt like my space and time. And what I've left with every like season of my life or different scenario was this suffering, this thorn in my flesh that confirms to me, right? This is not your space and time. This is not your space and time. This is not your space and time. These people have roots here, but I'm not having you develop roots here. You're going to be able to dress up like these people, but then I'm going to strip you away from these clothes. And you're going to be able to form relationships in this setting, but then I'm going to strip you away from that. And that's all that it's ever been. And I've been basically trying to just run and hide from this thorn in my flesh that is this deep sense of homelessness in me, where it's just like there's really nowhere to go now, and he has led me to a dead end where now I'm confronted with something I cannot get rid of on my own. I cannot get past this place. This is my reality. But I think that it's also not just me. It's this almost this universal thorn in the flesh of mankind that is this weakness of flesh, this how in your subconscious you can really go nowhere new, and that's how much we are in need of a savior to deliver us and take us to a new place. Right? We're trying to like form things and build things and do all of these things here on this earth. And it seems to just be a resume of all of this hiding, all of this trying to build, right? Trying to survive and all of that and everything coming from that place. And it's extremely nauseating to me because it just seems to be more confirming and confirming this is not your space and time. This is not your space and time. And I actually get excited like whenever COVID happened or these shifts in the atmosphere or whatever that have been going on or whatever. I'm like, I feel like we're gearing up and ready to go. Like it's finally going to be my time when the world is on fire or we're in like an apocalyptic state. Because someone's ending is going to be my beginning. Because I never felt like someone's beginning was my beginning. Because I never felt like someone else's space and time was my space and time. And because of that, I've had this thorn in my flesh, this suffering, this unable to remove it. Just like, I mean, you might as well you don't live anywhere. You're not connected with anything. You're just passing through life. Like God is like just taking you and he's taking me and he's just moving us along. And your arrival at a place, space and time is going to be whenever the world is crumbling. What we thought the world to be and what it was supposed to be, what we thought time was and what we thought all of these things were is going to be exposed and shown. We actually didn't know anything, right? And we were in much deeper need for him than we could have ever imagined. We were actually stuck in our subconscious, unable to go to a new place, trying to distract from that thorn in our flesh that is, I can't get past this weakness in me with the work of my hands. I'm trying to distract from this thorn in my flesh, this weakness of flesh, this inability to produce on my own. I'm trying to distract myself by trying to go and do all of these things. And all the things that we've been trying to do is what just created the world that we see and the world that we have known it to be. But I feel like there is an exposure that is happening. At least I'm looking forward to something happening because it just seems to all be so plastic. It seems to be all so like just manufactured by us, just like really big structures to hide in and clothes to put on and play pretend. That's all that it seems to be. It's like, oh yeah, you're this. Well, no, you've been just pretending. Like, I don't think it's just me. I'm just more aware of that human weakness that says you can do nothing in your own strength. You can produce nothing substantial in your own strength. And we're all just trying to survive off of the fruit that we're producing. And we're basically you're just calling that life. We're calling that survival way that we've always known life to be. We're calling that life. And I'm like, that's not life, that's survival. A boy with a thorn in his side. And I know other people can feel it too, this anticipation for something new to happen. This anticipation, this excitement, this nervous energy perhaps. What was dormant before actually becoming like awake. And what we thought was like a structure that was going to be here forever actually is shown to be something that was made of like paper mache, right? I always thought that this would still be here. And I thought that's what made life. Like I thought that these things were solid, but I come to find that there is actually an earthquake that can shake this and crumble it to the ground. We are not so protected within ourselves like I thought. we are in more need than I thought. And I think that's where I have lived my whole life. And God's grace being the thorn in my flesh is I've not been able to outrun or distract myself very well from feeling that like all the time. And I would go into spaces and places and I would describe this to people, and it was almost like they would, not consciously, but there would just be this rejection of that whole thing. And now I'm like, I understand why. I think it's because this whole world that we have built for ourselves has just been one great like pretend show, one big distraction away from our weakness. And the weakness that I'm openly expressing like every day, because I don't live in another place that isn't this. And they're just like, hey, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? Like, you're not supposed to talk about that. Like, we're not supposed to talk about that. Hey, look what we're doing over here. Look what we're doing over here. Look what new movies coming out here, and look what's doing this. Look what we're doing over here. Look what we're building. Look what we're creating. Isn't it so creative? And I'm just like, no, it's really not. You're describing the human experience of pretending and putting on clothes that don't belong to you, but it's just all the same shit, really. And that's what it appears to be to me. But I mean, I'm obviously just in a weird space, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I on these videos or whatever? And I'm looking at what's showing up on my YouTube page and my TikTok thing, and I'm just like, man, the psychics sound like the Jesus people, and the Jesus people sound like the psychics, and it's just like everybody just kind of sounds the same, and there's just like this clickbait, and it's about like drawing people in, and then it's about like, oh, this person said this about you, but you're actually this. And it's, why is it always about what other people said and believed and the perceptions? It's like, oh, we're not able to leave that place. We can't leave that place. That's where we are weak. Like, we cannot unbind ourselves from our need to be perceived a certain way. And that's not really like an issue. It's just like, that's just where we are. Like, we're way weaker than we pretend that we're not. And all of the pretending and the putting on clothes and the distracting ourselves from the work with the work of our hands, to me, just exposes how much we feel ashamed of that place in us that we actually can't produce anything substantial. Right? And I'm looking forward to a world, an apocalyptic type of thing, where what is shaken will like reveal what is like actually structurally sound. And I think we're going to find that a lot of things that are structurally sound that we thought were going to be here forever are not forever. And you will find that, oh, that was the work of a man's hands, a man that was trying to distract himself from his weakness, right? Trying to find another place to hide, find another place to pretend. And I think God's like shaking that up. At least I'm kind of expecting him to, in this way. Where it's just like what are we doing here? Like, what is this? Like, what is this for real? Like, what is this? I'm like an author of life or something. But it's just not a life that like everything that we've seen before. It's just it's I don't think it is substantial, like in the substance form of things, what we thought it was. And that actually shows us how much we as mankind have been in the dark about him. In the dark about ourselves. And his coming is actually going to be the light that exposes the darkness and shows us what has always been true. But in what has always been true is going to show what has always been false. So an exposure of light will reveal what has been true all along, which consequently, or whatever you want to say, reveals what has not been true all along. And I'm kind of waiting for that collision or something, because I'm like in this halfway place, right? And you know, maybe it's you too or whatever, where it's just like you don't feel like you belong anywhere. You feel like you're homeless in the world, because the world that we thought it to be, you're like, well, that never really fit me. But I don't know of this world, this internal world that is in me, because I haven't seen it yet. It's just not here, and it's not there, and it's not what these people are talking about, and it's not what these people have built. And it's not this massive distraction away from our weakness. So what is it then? So what is it then? I'm just like, I don't know. I'm in a dark place describing things that just, this is what it looks like to me, you know? I'm just like, man, I feel like a crazy person on the internet. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll just be a crazy person on the internet. If that's true or not, it doesn't really matter. And that I think that's where the relief for me is going to be. I want to see what is true emerge so that I can see what has always been false. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of things that are false that we thought were always going to be true. And that's what's going to come out. There's going to be a lot of unnecessary things that we have said, this is what life is. And we're like, no, that has been hiding and pretending. And I've always been able to be someone that was more maybe aware of my subconscious reality, and that subconscious reality being a place that I can't alter or change, in my weakness needing him to produce something in that subconscious place that actually takes me to a new subconscious place, where it seems in other people they are not aware of their subconscious, but they're aware of how much it bothers them that they can't change it. On some level they suppress the truth of that and try to go and pretend and build and play dress up in the world of whatever. It's like, oh, I'm a doctor because I went and did all of these things. It's like, yeah, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, you have the credentials of a doctor, sure, but like, what was that? Like, what brought you to do that? Yeah, I know you want to help people, but are you not just, and maybe it's not so cynical, maybe it's not so, there's just something there, right? And you can't quite describe it. So if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. If you don't, you don't. But that's been my reality. I'm just like, I'm waiting for this to come out. I'm waiting for this great exposure to happen, right? And whenever COVID happened, I was like, oh, I'm excited about this. Because this actually like is starting to line up with the subconscious fears that I've been trying to run away from, are now seem to be, with the COVID thing, it raised those subconscious fears to the surface in people, right? So what was on the inside started to be brought to the outside to show you that you can't fix the inside. And so then you started to see people get squirrely in a new way as they, this great reckoning is happening on mankind where they're not able to fix or alter their subconscious, fix or alter what's inside of them, right? That required a great shaking in the earth to bring out that, right? And so I'm just like, well, is there going to be another shaking or something? Because it seems like it shook things up, and some people, the Lord was like, you're ready to now go into a place where I'm uprooting you from everything. I'm taking you away from everything, and you're not going to be able to outrun what's in you. You're not going to be able to hide this thorn in your flesh, this suffering of your weakness and your weakness. But other people, they were like shaken or something, and then they just they're like, oh, that was scary. And then they just started to just go back and do what they wanted to do. Like they started to double down on themselves. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to shake it up again, because that is no life to live, you doubling down on yourself. And so I have to actually bring out what's in you. And so I just feel like I've been living my whole life with my insides on the outside. And as I get older, and I guess more established in the Lord, my insides are more on the outside. And I'm just like, what is all of this? When it seems to be people's insides are on the outside and they're telling me about their outsides, I'm like, this is what's on the inside, because that's where I live. I don't care about what's the outside. The outside just seems to be the shell, the covering. It's the place that you hide in. And I'm like, you're just telling me about your hiding place, but you don't believe it's your hiding place. You're calling it your accolades or something. You're calling it something else, but I don't think it's what that is. And so, but it's just like, okay.